On January 26th, Nintendo World Report will be hosting our 9th charity live stream to support Child's Play starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The more you donate, the longer we stream with over 12 hours of content available if we can hit our goal of $4,000. Donations are open now, so don't wait. Donate now so you don't forget. For more information and to donate, click the link in the description. And don't forget to join us here on NWR TV on January 26th for the all-day stream. Alright, now back to the video.
Hello everybody, I am Daan, and I'm here with Brjann of Image Inform.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. It's snowing in Sweden, so yeah, no complaints whatsoever.
Here it's mostly some frost on the ground and that's about it. Like, there's nothing much happening here. It's a meager -2 degrees
Right.
Celsius.
Well, it's similar to here. I think it's just around 0, and that's the way we like it. Don't have to scrape the car too much.
That's fine, that's fine. Hey, we're here to talk about, I think I need to come clean first, right? Or how do we open this? Like, do we immediately say the game? Because likely when we post this, they will know. But, I mean,
Yeah.
I should give some sort of setup, do I?
Well, sure you can. I mean, it's please go ahead. It's so, or do you want me to?
I mean,
introduce?
either of us could do it. I can do it for you, so you can just sit there and watch.
Well, you can do it if you want. Yeah, that sounds good. Could be good to. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, we shouldn't debate this too much. So, we've been talking since Gamescom about something that you guys were working on, and I specifically said there, don't tell me any further, because then we said we should likely come together sometime so I could play it, and I got to do that last December, a week before Christmas. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
And what I mostly got to see was, well, obviously got to see your beautiful office, obviously. But secondly, I got to play a bunch of SteamWorld Quest.
Right. And as you know, like the first person outside of us to do it. So
Yeah.
we were quite excited to have you, and yeah, really excited to hear what you thought about it at that time. Because I mean, I'm not going to reveal when we are going to release the game, but
Yeah.
like it's sort of counterproductive to show a game when it's too early, like, and also it's counterproductive to show it when it's too late, because then if it sucks, then you don't have any time to fix it.
That's true.
So it was probably we showed it to you at a good time, I think.
I feel so too. Like, the moments that I played of it, and it was about 3 to 4 hours, something like that. About 3 hours, I think so.
Was it that long? Okay,
Yeah,
it felt like you said with it.
like the first couple of hours we did some other stuff, and then just the entire back end was SteamWorld Quest.
Right, that was it.
Yeah.
And then, so I picked you up at the airport in the morning, and then had you play games intensely throughout the day, and then
Yeah. We said to each other we should likely have made it 2 days because of how much we actually were doing.
yeah, I was just. It was funny when I was driving out to pick you up at the airport. I was kind of wondering, it's like, how are we going to fill Dan's day with stuff to do? And it was over.
It was quite easy.
Started.
It was quite easy, to be honest.
But I mean, we should also tell the listeners, and maybe not everyone knows why we asked you to do this. I mean, the history behind it is how do you say it? It's both endearing and also serious. I mean, in 2013, we released the first SteamWorld game that became a hit of any caliber. And that was, so SteamWorld Dig came out in 2013, and the days leading up, just the very few days leading up to the release of that game, you worked so hard to push that game for us. So it's you can always sort of minimize that, but to us it was hugely important. Mm-hmm. And so it was great to have you come and check out the game. Check out SteamWorld Quest now. It's sort of felt like that is the guy we want to play it first.
I have to mention this before we actually go into the game. He told this story to everybody in the office too, every single time we stopped somewhere.
Well, I've told everyone before, and then I sort of have a knack of repeating myself. I mean, everybody knew who you were, but I was sort of everyone's like, yeah, we know this. This is Nintendo. Great. Finally get to meet you. Yeah.
Also, there were some people on the PR team that actually started to tweet me directly after about, oh, thank you for the chocolate, because I brought Dutch chocolate along. And for me, it was really hard to not mention that I was specifically there.
Well, it's everyone... Exactly. Everyone thought you were just the chocolate man.
But yeah, I spent 3 hours playing SteamWorld Quest. Should we explain what the game actually entails?
Yeah, you can do that now, because it's this airs, of course, after it's been revealed by Nintendo Europe. Yeah. So it's just exciting to not only have us tell people what the game is and what we feel about the game, because we're obviously so biased, right? So it'll be interesting to just talk about what it is and what you feel it is.
We're kind of stingy right now because we're recording this before the time, so it feels really weird at the moment. But we'll get used to it. Yeah, so SteamWorld Quest is a side-scrolling RPG. I would say it is a side story, right, of like the main line games.
Yes, most definitely. It's that's without giving too much away about that. It's that's an accurate way of putting it. It's not sort of in the main storyline of SteamWorld, where you have your regular characters, Rusty and Dorothy and Piper. I mean, they actually follow a timeline that is, it's the same timeline for all of them.
Also, SteamWorld Tower Defense. I don't remember who was at the forefront of that game, but yeah, SteamWorld Tower Defense.
Right, that's it. And so it's this game is, yes, it's very much off on its own, and it becomes obvious when you play the game that that it's actually sort of on a sideline.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, we shouldn't tell more than that.
No, that's very good.
But yeah, it's on a separate timeline. It's a side-scrolling RPG. I will notice immediately, considering it's more of a fantasy setting. The characters themselves are just as funny as I remember the last two games being. Like, especially Heist and Dig 2 were really on point with their humor. Like, especially with Heist, with the introduction of hats and that sort of stuff. Yeah. That's where the wittiness really came into its own. Quest is very much that. Like, Quest is a very witty RPG with characters that simply don't know any better and think that they know any better and try to fix it anyway.
That's exactly it, because it's about heroes or people who want to be heroes.
Yeah,
and then people who don't care about being heroes but accidentally become heroes and so on.
Yeah,
it's very much in the banter between these characters. You have a real sort of it's very similar to SteamWorld Heist that way, like you said.
Right.
You understand that they are fond of each other.
Yeah.
But they are also sort of in each other's faces the entire time.
Yeah, it's they can't live without each other, but also at the same time they want to kind of kill each other.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
that's very good, because that's how they feel about each other, and they're endearing characters, and it's this dream of being a hero. Like everyone has idols or their own heroes, and they want to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe sometimes things don't turn out the way you think they would. But
they definitely don't. You can immediately see that in the first couple of moments where nothing turns out that it should be. Like, there's one character that really wants to be a hero. The other character is like, I just want to research plants. And then the fourth guy is like, I just want to make a sandwich.
But then you have, sometimes you can't mess with fate. Like, fate will sort of take you where you're supposed to. Mm-hmm. And that's what we like about SteamWorld, because SteamWorld is sort of doing that to us in real life. That's what SteamWorld is doing to Image and Form. We think we know where it's going to go, and then it sort of decides for us where we're supposed to take this this universe, and it's great. Like, it also about the genre of the game. You mentioned that it's a side-scrolling RPG.
Yes,
and it's something that we. I mean, you know that we're very big Nintendo fans, like in the office.
Of course,
and, one of the things to take on at some point is our own RPG, and so you could say, like, it's the setup for it is. I don't know how far back you played games, Dan, but I can imagine that you've played games since you could hold, like, from the time you could hold something with both hands. Right?
Oh yeah, I very much did. Yeah.
I mean, I used to live in Japan, and together with Japanese friends, I was sort of at least in the room when we played quite a few JRPGs back then. Even it's so long ago that I probably didn't realize what titles I was playing at the time. It doesn't matter, but like, RPGs is for many of us at Image and Form, like, that's sort of how we got into gaming. It's not via platformers or racing games or it's been almost this thing that you didn't dare to do because you're so worried that you're going to do it poorly.
I mean, you guys mostly made, I would say, action games. Even the strategy genre, for how widespread and static-based that it is, it was mostly more of an action game. How you could ricochet shots and everything. This feels very different. Like, you still move around across, like, 4 directions, across, like, a 2D shape. But it's the actions that you do reminds me a lot more of RPGs I used to play, for example, during GameCube or N64, where you can walk around, you can sneak on enemies, you can strike them, and then start a battle. And that is very different from anything that I've ever seen of Image and Form in particular. Right.
But that's also sort of in line with what we've always wanted to do with SteamWorld. Like, SteamWorld Tower Defense game. SteamWorld Dig is its own digging, sort of mining platform adventure game. And then SteamWorld Heist is a turn-based combat game. SteamWorld Dig 2 obviously is the sequel of Dig, so it's the same. But this is what we wanted SteamWorld to be, open to all kinds of game designs. And this sounds really pretentious, but in one sense, we want people to. Yeah, okay. How about this? Like, we want people who like to play games, but think that they only like one type of game. We want them to feel. We want to create an IP, a brand that you are so comfortable with. You can sort of know before you buy the game that this is going to be a quality game.
Yeah.
If I'm going to like it or not, it's going to depend on if this game is for me or not. Do you understand what I'm? But
yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
But that means that if you're going to get a SteamWorld game, you can rest assured that it's a really decent game. But it can also be a game that opens up an entirely new genre to you. I mean, we're getting so many for SteamWorld Heist. Still today, we're getting so many tweets and notifications on Facebook, even email from people who are writing to us saying that. It's like a friend of mine told me about this turn-based game, and I told him, I don't play turn-based games. I don't like it. And guess what? Today I like turn-based games. And
yeah, but it was also like it was sufficiently different than most other strategy games out there because it tried to not be one. It tried to be more of an action game, but layered with the things that make a strategy game interesting. Right.
So SteamWorld Quest it's a card battle RPG, like the core.
Oh yeah, we should have mentioned that before, didn't we? The battle system, card based.
Yes, and it's like with every Image and Form games. I should say this again: the core gameplay mechanic is the main issue for Image and Form.
Yeah.
Like with SteamWorld Dig, it's the digging, the selling, the upgrading, that sort of loop. With SteamWorld Heist, it's the combat system, and here it's the card battle system that is it's really cool to play. That's why you play this game. I mean, aside from I think it's a beautifully crafted game, and I love the humor in the game, but it has this serious sort of core. Like the core of the game is really solid. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
So rather than being an RPG that tries to do everything, like this is sort of it centers around the card battles.
Yeah. So within the card battles, you have your basic attacks. You have attacks that actually use gears, and depending on how you line up, every time you use a card, you earn a gear. So if you first use a card that has no gears attached to it, and then use one that simply uses one, you might be able to string those together in combos and just build from there. Like it's really like the big thing that you need to keep in mind is knowing how much gear you have. If you let them build up and first just do a few simple attacks, you can do very powerful attacks one after another, and then if they're all in the same category, they will add a fourth card to the mix that do an ultimate combo. So it's all about knowing when you should fold or knowing when you should just take it a step back. Like you can redraw cards, but that's not always a guarantee that you'll get something good. So sometimes you have to just roll with the punches, just throw a card out there and just see what happens next turn.
That's right. I mean, you should of course compare it to regular card playing, but like you can sort of compare it to any kind of sport. Even like if you have a hand that is pretty weak, then you should definitely not go all out, but sort of go defensive for one turn and sort of play the cards that you're dealt, basically.
Yeah. And along the way, there are chests that you get new cards. There are moments in the game where you get new cards, and you need to go to a menu and just swap them. Like, every character has, like, a set selection of cards, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But it's very, very big. So it's... I mean, you have hundreds of cards, basically, for all the playable characters put together. Yeah. So it's like knowing what card you're going to get or what card is going to be played. You build your own deck in this game. That's sort of one of the main things as well. You decide this is what I'm going to bring on the road, Like if I'm going to run into baddies, like
Yeah.
once the battle starts, you can't change the deck that you built. That's sort of those cards that are going to be thrown into the mix.
And we also obviously have to mention it's just offensive cards, also defensive cards. So the entire battle system is built around those cards.
That's right.
You don't really have another choice in the matter. You have to use the cards in one way or another.
Yeah. They're also like, I mean, there are 3 types of cards that you mentioned. Like 2 of them build up these, 2 of the card types, they sort of facilitate the 3rd type. I mean, 2 of them build up cogs in a system that we have. And if you have enough cogs, then you can play this 3rd type of card, which is, it's really kind of interesting. So it means that you just playing cards at random is not going to be good for you. It's it's kind of cool. It's almost like managing of like having these cards is like managing a mini football team every turn.
Yeah.
Like, who's playing for me this game, right? So it's
and also like the only other agency that you have, considering the battle system, is that you level up your characters, that you keep battling. And that you also like collect gear that does improve certain stats like attack. Yeah.
And also depending on, you also find or win cards in the game. From the beginning, you don't have all the cards you have very far from all the cards.
You have very little cards in the first moments of the game.
So in the beginning you think it's like, okay, this is kind of limited, but it's also sort of goes with how we like games to progress, right? I mean, progression in games is really important. Pacing in progression too is very important.
Oh yeah, I think that's like if you introduce too much, it can be a lot overbearing.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, as I moved along through the demo, I got a lot of cards. I leveled up my characters decently. I explored areas. And I just felt very comfy doing so. And you immediately noticed that, I think, after an hour, I was just barely talking. I was just playing.
Yeah. It's one of the... I like that about this game, that I sit and play... And then after an hour, when I've played for an hour, not more, then I look at the clock and 4 hours have passed. Yeah. So it's like, it's impossible. Like the time has just sort of flown. And I think this is it's a game that if you sort of play it seriously, you're going to spend 20 to 25 hours like finishing this game.
Yeah.
It's a game where you should play it the way that I played JRPGs in the beginning, because I didn't understand Japanese very well. So I had to, all the dialogues, I mean, just one, what do you call it? Like one call out like that.
Yeah.
It would take me anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes to understand what they were actually saying. So
yeah,
it's a game like that if you skip the dialogue, then you're actually, it's like going to the Louvre and to look at paintings, but you're going to run through the Louvre, if you understand what I mean. Mm-hmm. You're going to just skip everything.
You also don't understand enough what is actually going on, because there are details that you are definitely missing.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you're going to... you sort of need to listen to the dialogue, because that's where the story is that's where the story progression is. So
the 2D environments that you explore, you don't really explore them all too much. You do a little bit of research, you find a chest that you can break open, you collect a few items, and then move on to the next one. And it feels very nice, because you just quickly move from environment to environment, and every time you see something new. With other RPGs, like mostly these days, it's just one continuous world. But I always feel that, considering the map system and how you explore everything, there might be something waiting for you to the other side, and that's sort of exciting, because you don't know what it is.
Right. It's I should say, like, SteamWorld Quest has this core of the battle system, the card battles, or the battle cards, and getting around in the game is a means to progress the story. Like, it's not like you mentioned now. It's 2D, and you get from sort of scene to scene.
Yeah,
and that means that the game isn't really about exploration. Like, it's more like a play where you are done with one scene and then you go to the next scene and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's sort of it's an homage to, like, to the older RPGs where this was what you would do. Like, you would go from one screen to another. Like, one screen is one scene.
Yeah.
And that means that, like, we've always had this vision that exploration is not going to be the key to this game. Rather, it's going to be about the gameplay itself.
Right.
Otherwise, like, I'm sure that there are lots of studios that would do that better. The strength at Image and Form is exactly that. Like, what is the core gameplay? Let's make that, like, extremely sweet. And I mean, I have to confess that I've never been a card player. Like, I've never played Magic: The Gathering or, like, played Pokemon battles or anything like that. I haven't. You know, it's like,
yeah,
it's one of those. You look at it, it's like, okay, I understand what it's about. It's never gonna catch me. But as usual, like, I'm caught up in this. I think this is really exciting.
I mean, that's because, like, it is simplified to a point without slimming down gameplay, right? Because it's mostly about the gear system and knowing what the effect is. Right.
And it's, rather than trying to do too many different things, this game is trying to be good at this one thing, but it tries to be really good at it. And it's also good that you put it that way, that it's an accessible form of card battles.
Yeah.
Like, or it's not like you don't need, like, a university degree to start playing this game. You will understand what it's about.
For me, it's a similar case with Heist and Dig 2, which were both an accessible strategy game and an accessible Metroidvania.
Yeah. Like, this accessibility without being rude to the player. Like, oversimplifying, or it's a game is really a lot of fun if you can. You don't need, like, a UI that is really cluttered and 1,000 controls and tweaks and so on. Like, here's the game. Like, football is beautiful that way. I think it's 11 guys versus 11 guys, and it's a ball. And what are you supposed to do? You want to get the ball into the net. And then they included, like, rules like offside and so on, just to make the game more exciting, right? But at the end of the day, you can explain the game very, very quickly.
For sure. Yeah, I think the beauty of, like, Quest really was, like, sitting down, just playing it and feeling like I accomplished something. Like, if I get a new card, like, there was immediately an enticement to go to that menu and see what the card does, and then changing it on the fly if I found it interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it took a couple of times for me to do that out of myself. I was like, oh, I got a new card, let's move on. But then at the second time, I was like, do I really want to see this card? And the third time I was like, okay, let's check this card. I want to know what this does. Because purely on the title and the picture alone, you kind of want to see from, maybe this is good to use, and then you start to screwing around with that, and then just move on to the next battle. You can actually strike from behind, if I remember correctly.
That's right. You have this sort of preemptive strike, like
in other RPGs, but it's here it's just a basic attack, and then you move into using the cards again. And I got really the hang of that. I was using the preemptive strike, was already looking at my cards that came in. I was like, I'm going to use these 3 cards and hope for the best. And there are resistance and weaknesses in play, so you need to keep in mind what the character can handle or not.
Yeah.
And basically, you're at the end of the battle. You collect your experience or whenever you get, and move on to the next part of the level.
That's exactly it. I think this deck building aspect of it it's also cool because you set up the deck. If you don't set up the deck, then you're saying that I don't care what happens to me. Like you want, it's really an element of the game. Like, what type of cards do I want to have with me out in battle? And also, it's like, what cards are the other characters carrying? Because you're building separate decks for the different players. So you need to have a balance for the character, but you also need to have a balance in the entire team.
We should mention that all the cards get mixed in with each other regardless of what you do. So it doesn't always guarantee that you get the right set of cards if you really want them.
Right.
So even if you have like sets of cards for each character that you're really, really happy with, you still need to get them all in a row to really get a good combo going. You can still use them separately. There's nothing stopping you from just using a card of each. But is it the most effective? I don't think so.
Also, I mean, we're talking about the characters that you play. Your enemies are very, very different from each other as well. Like, some are... I mean, you will obviously not know what type of attacks they have before you run into them the first time.
I was surprised by that. Like, the first area already had like a very... Like, if you would go entirely up, I don't remember exactly where I was going. That was a really strong enemy there, which was really kicking my behind, and two of my characters ended up dead.
Well, maybe,
I don't think you had to fight them to carry on. But
no, you could probably sneak away. But the thing is, with what we do, like in the last months leading up to release, is balancing the games. Yeah. So it's probably this character is a little further into the game.
Oh, okay. Well, I was still also there's still that element of surprise, right? Like, even though like it was likely not going to be at that point in the game, it's still the enemy of surprise that you don't know what is going on, and that's the bigger point I'm trying to make, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
like you won't, like, if you, let's say that you go on a quest in real life, a quest to be a hero and beat people at card playing. Well, of course you wouldn't know like what they were all about. Like you need to sort of, there needs to be, well, that's one of the strong points in the game, that we can use this element of surprise all the time. And it doesn't get old. Like, you don't know, like you're going to walk into an area, you don't know if there's going to be an enemy there or not. The
negative side of that is that I went completely wrong direction. If I had gone down at that specific point, there was a heal spot I could heal my enemies at and my allies at. But instead I went up, so I fought another two enemies.
But I think it always works like this too, that you can sort of enter a scene and then you decide whether you want to engage in combat or not. And then you can sort of go exploring to see if you can find other routes in the game. And if there aren't any other routes, well, that's where you're supposed to be. Like, that's where we want you to go.
Right.
And,
I feel
get your behind kicked.
I feel like in the first 30 minutes, I played it too much as an action game. Even though I knew it was more of an RPG.
Right.
But yeah, if you are more careful than I was, obviously, then you know that to explore both options and then choose the best one. Well, that's part of the strategy as well, right? Like, am I ready? Do I think I'm ready for this type of enemy, or should I see if I could pick up more stuff first? It's like you say, that's a really good explanation. Like, playing this as an action game, just sort of running headlong into things and not listening to, not reading
any of the conversations or not picking up any hints along the way, then you're probably going to get your behind kicked.
Was it interesting to move away from action games? Like I said earlier, everything that you've done, even though it's different genres, everything felt more actiony. This feels a lot more deliberate. Was that interesting for you in any way, from going from, oh, let's do another action game in a different genre, to not completely moving away from the idea of action?
It was it's definitely very interesting, and this also sounds pretentious, but we I think we like to challenge ourselves. It's not like we decided that we know for a fact that we're very good at making RPG games. There's no way. We didn't know that, but there's enough people excited by the prospect of sitting down and doing an RPG that it became a good idea because it motivated so many people in the office. Let's put it that way. I'm
pretty sure that some people in the office there are likely fans of like tabletop stuff and what have you. Yes. And maybe that idea got rolling because like the cards aspect of it and solely focusing on the cards feels like a very deliberate tabletop-esque choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's really important. Like, people here love tabletop playing or tabletop games, board games. So, I mean, once a week or twice a week, people are here playing, and they play until really late. And so that's a really cool thing, that people who work together actually also want to hang out in their free time. And I'd say that it affects everyone. That also we have a lot of people who are into role playing, who go on LARPs and stuff like that. Live action.
Really? That's nice.
No, I'm not kidding. Some of them just go regularly. Like, all their vacation time goes into LARPs. Like, they spend 5 weeks of work days being somewhere, typically somewhere in Europe, on really elaborate LARPs. There's 4 or 5 or 6 people that just go all the time on these things.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's like that we would be making a role-playing game ourselves is, of course, very exciting to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine, Dan, that SteamWorld Dig 2 was a huge hit. Mm-hmm. It's very, very easy to jump to the conclusion that we would immediately make SteamWorld Dig 3 after SteamWorld Dig 2. I mean, at least if you look at the revenue, right? I mean, you look at the income from that game. It's been very, very healthy for us. Like, if we only decided what to make from a financial standpoint or from that perspective, sure, we would have released SteamWorld Dig 3 now. But that's the great thing. I mean, I don't get to decide what games we make. I don't sit and decide that. It's everyone at Image. If people aren't motivated to make a certain game at a certain point, well, then we shouldn't be making that game.
Yeah, sure.
Everyone is sort of this is a game that everyone who has worked on it has been really excited about.
I just realized it when you were talking about LARPs. Yeah. The journey in Quest very much feels like a LARP.
It's very good because the people who are very central, or many of the people who are sort of the leads for SteamWorld Quest, like in production, they are the people who go on LARPs all the time. They're totally the characters in Quest. They are totally on a LARP.
because not to. Without giving too much away, the main character wants to be a hero. He pretends that he is a hero.
Actually.
She. Okay, she. Yeah. Thank you. Very, very good. She pretends that she's a hero, but she very much isn't. And she wants to find out if she can become one. And every time they interact with characters, she tries to force the idea of becoming a hero, and that is very LARP-esque.
Yeah, and that's right. And she like narrates everything. Sort of when they get into a new area, she speaks in quotes, like our heroes descended on the new place, coming out of blah 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 blah. And her friends are like, "Do you have to narrate everything all the time?" So, yeah, that's what heroes do. So it's like they're in a story if you like. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I thought about it when we talked about it, or when I played the game, but now thinking about it and actually looking back, it's like, yeah, this was totally a LARP.
Yeah. So can you imagine that? I mean, it's characters from a fictional world where they can't really exist because we had to make it into sort of a side story. Yeah. But even those characters that are in the side story are they think they're in the story. Like, so it's like Inception 3 layers or something. I don't know how to put it, but it's, I like it. It's like, I think it's a lot of fun.
That should be just a quote. It's a LARP adventure.
It's not an RPG. It's a LARP. Yeah,
it's a LARP with a card battle system.
Well, that's it.
Fantastic.
All right, my man. So, should we wrap this up, you think?
Yeah, is there anything that you want to talk about, or something that we haven't discussed before? Or we're just doing this out of the blue and very off the cuff, so we are not prepared for anything in particular. But if you want to say something now, do it now. Hold your peace forever.
Well, I should say first that, I mean, you and me, we sort of intend to record these things, like whenever we talk, but then like we end up talking for 2 hours about everything, high and low, and then we realize that we're out of time before we start recording. So I'm glad we actually hit the record button early on here. Well, there's a lot of things to talk about. That's what I meant by that. Yeah. You and me, we discuss everything all the time, but we're of course working on other things as well. I'm not going to go into detail there, but
also this is the first time we talked since Thunderful became a thing.
Yeah, officially at least. Yeah, I mean we've.
I've known for a while, but it's like we never talked when Thunderful was still becoming something. That's
right, and Thunderful is a thing that I realize that I need to explain it every time every time I talk about Thunderful, I need to explain what it is. So it's Image and Form and Zoink, a studio here in Gothenburg that has made some terrific games. Like
I love their games. Absolutely, I do. Yeah,
Stick It to the Man and Faye and Flipping Death and so on. They are me and the CEO there. We're very good friends, and the studios are about the same size. We're 25 people each. And a long time ago, we realized that we have the same opportunities and same challenges. And so we decided that we should start working more closely together, at least when it comes to PR, marketing, and publishing. So that little core of people just working with PR, marketing, and publishing, we decided to make that its own company called Thunderful Publishing. So we created like an owner company just called Thunderful.
Yeah.
And that company the company wholly owns Image and Form and Zoink and Thunderful Publishing. Then we also acquired a publisher in England called Rising Star Games that have put out quite a few games over the years.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Like Image and Form is still its own company, and Zoink is still its own company, and Thunderful Publishing is a separate company from that, and so is Rising Star Games. But we now work really closely on everything we do. So it's important to keep Image and Form and Zoink as separate companies because we still make games in radically different ways.
Sure.
So also for the people working at Image and Form and Zoink, it's been necessary to sort of maintain the identity.
I don't know if you agree with the following I say. I feel that from a very early stage, like Zoink focuses on what the game already should look like.
Yeah.
And Image and Form focus on the gameplay first.
Yeah. It's and that comes from, I mean, Klaus Lingelid, who's a brilliant game designer. He is a graphic artist. He runs Zoink, and he's a graphic artist by trade. So, like, how a game looks and feels is really important to how Zoink make games. Whereas Image and Form, we focus, like you say, on it's more nuts and bolts, like the core gameplay.
It's rudimentary, but you know where the gameplay is going.
Yes. The problem, like for Image and Form, compared to Zoink, is that it takes forever until we can present what a game is, because it never looks. For a very long time, it looks like it's placeholder graphics all over the place. Whereas Zoink, even before they know what the game is going to be about, they have a beautiful trailer for the game. So, like for me, whose job it is to sort of help out selling the games and so on, that's a dream. But I'm very used to how we do things at Image and Form. Yeah. So that's what Thunderful is. Thunderful is both the owner of Image and Form and Zoink, but it's also a separate company that takes care of PR, marketing, and publishing for both of the studios. And also, Thunderful Publishing publishes third-party games. We have a few really exciting third-party releases, like from other indie studios, coming up this year. And some of those games, we're going to talk about them on a separate occasion, but we're really excited about that too. Right now, it's all SteamWorld Quest.
Well, also, I would say Honeymoon is now out on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Go buy that. Yeah,
Hellfront Honeymoon is out on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. And right now we're sort of working on the Switch version for it as well.
Yeah, but that's why I'm mostly just pimping the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC version.
Yeah, very good. We should focus on those because they're out.
Yeah, that game seems really interesting. I have not played it yet, but I should.
Yeah, well, it's really intense, and it's a perfect party game. That's what it is. That's what it's supposed to be too. It's one of those games that there's so much. It's sort of like it's like a tower defense action game. I can't put it in a better way. It's like twin stick mayhem, right? You play it, and it's so fast paced that if you just look at it from a distance, it's kind of hard to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But when you're playing it, you understand immediately what you're supposed to do, and it's very exciting It's like a couch, either versus or co-op game. But as a couch versus game, it's the perfect party game, I think.
It's also interesting to see how like games are like announced for like sometimes for Thunderful. Like the American side is mostly just being Thunderful, and then European was Rising Star Games for a game like Giga Rega Alt, which I'm really excited for to see that on different systems.
Yeah, well, it feels like all of this is a separate discussion, or we're
trying to paste it at the end because where else do we need to put it, right? But I just think where the bigger point I want to make about that is like I think it's very interesting, like where all of this is going, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, there's so much exciting stuff happening, and it all comes from sizing up a little bit. I mean, all the money that we make, we sort of reinvest into the operation. Like when we were done making SteamWorld Tower Defense, that we were 4 people working at Image and Form. 4 people. Now Image and Form is 25 people today, and you can't sort of. It's very good that we have the ownership that we have, because the owners. I'm one of the owners, but the other owners as well. They're not interested in just milking the company for money. Rather, like, I've been allowed to reinvest
Sure.
all of the money into the operation, and that means that now that SteamWorld Dig 2 was doing so well for us, it meant that we could actually make the effort to spend the money and do all the legwork to start Thunderful Publishing and get Rising Star Games into the operation and so on.
Yeah.
It's very, very exciting times.
Anyway, once again, final message on Quest before we go.
Oh, it's okay. So we are going to announce the release date and the price and so on at a later date.
Yeah.
But it's just stay tuned, because we are going to be very energetic about talking about SteamWorld Quest in the time to come now. And it's a game that we are very excited about. We're always excited about the games that we make.
Yeah.
But this one is scary in one way, because this is classic ground. Like, making an RPG and make it interesting it's really one of those what do you call it? Like a masterclass, if you like.
Yeah.
If you understand the expression. It's not saying that we are mastering it, but we are attempting to do something very classic.
So you mean masterclass in the chef sort of way?
I think. Well, it's one of those things. We want to try this. Do we dare to try this? Because there are so many of the studios that we adore, and the classic games that we have played have been RPGs, and we don't want to mess it up. We want to make RPGs accessible in the way that we've made other genres accessible to people. And to reiterate, I mean, we really want SteamWorld to be a household name, something that you think of it as like, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this game, but if these guys have made it, I feel confident that it's going to be good, and I'm going to understand what it's about. They're going to gently lead me into this game genre that I haven't played before. And if you are an RPG fan, it's not going to be like child level either. It's going to be a really nice and tasty way to play an RPG, I think.
Good. I think that's about it then.
All right then. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I actually think we kept it actually quite short today. I'm sure we didn't. Usually we talk for hours and hours and hours, right? This is like around an hour or so today, maybe longer.
Yeah, something like that. Well, we still need to cut off some time because we had to take a break for some stuff. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, brother.
No worries at all.
Okay. Cheers.
Bye.
time.